Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Name Dragon, and tonight we're going to revisit the first, the only channel to ask me to take on their videos. I wonder whether or not they've even noticed yet. That's right, we're returning to the apologetics of Inspired Walk. And tonight, he's bringing us 10 questions he thinks are so destructive to atheists they cannot answer them. On the other hand, I think even my youngest niece could answer these pretty damned well. And last I checked, she doesn't speak yet. Without wasting even more of your life, let's dive right in.
Do you really believe that science is the only answer to all of life's questions?
Well, it's the only method that has demonstrated itself to be repeatedly capable of providing answers that reliably comport to the reality experienced by everyone, regardless of beliefs. It's a great tool, as proven by the fact that we're able to debate on a dispersed global network of computers communicating at near light speed via digital recordings of ourselves, our voices, and even completely generated graphics and animations. All of which was made possible by the repeated success of the scientific method over the course of centuries. I presume you want to contrast this to knowledge through divine revelation, which has led to faith healing, a practice that kills quite a few people it was supposed to heal. Is this going anywhere, or are they all softballs?
If God doesn't exist, why do you care if people worship him?
Well, for a start, I hate ignorance. And believing something just because someone told you to believe is ignorance. If you believe because you had a personal revelation in your life, I'm not going to argue. We can't prove each other wrong at that point. But why else do I care? Because believers keep trying to use the government to force their beliefs onto everyone else. Your video predates this, but consider the threat of execution hanging over a group of bloggers in Pakistan. Without religion, these people would have nothing to fear for speaking their mind. Consider the impact of religion on the teaching of evolution in America. Some of my viewers may be too young to remember, but I grew up in the Teach the Controversy era. A month of my life was wasted on a debate that wasn't even real. We read arguments from both sides. It was always obvious the creationists had no fucking clue how anything worked. How much more could I have learned if my time hadn't been wasted on that horseshit? If not for religion, we wouldn't have had to waste so much time and energy arguing that gay people and transgender people have basic human rights, including the right to contract known as marriage. See, if you fuckers only impose your religion on yourselves, we wouldn't care. As you've hopefully caught up on already, too many of you are too busy trying to impose it on everyone else. So, yeah, are you going to start asking questions where the answers are less painfully obvious?
Seriously, can nothing create something?
Depends on what you mean by nothing. If you mean a state of mental energy, well then, absolutely. It almost invariably creates something. That seems to be its primary characteristic from every experiment and observation we can hope to replicate so far. If, on the other hand, you mean the literal absence of anything existing, how can a lack of existing exist? By the way, I've watched enough of these videos that I know this is the nothing to which you are referring. And it's a nothing which logically cannot exist due to the law of non-contradiction. If it never existed, we don't ever have to worry about something having come from it. As such, your question, as intended, has no meaning and is nonsensical. You should probably go back to Apologetics 101. Pretty sure they explained that this is an idiotic approach. Right. Try again. So far, your particular methodology to God is losing 0 to 3.
If you've never been to the ends of the earth, if you've never been to every planet, if you've never been to every part of the universe, how do you know that God doesn't exist?
I don't know everything, that is. I know it seems like it sometimes because I'm an arrogant son of a bitch. And I've never said that there is no God. I've said that some specific God claims are almost certainly false. That's because we don't have to go very far to prove them false. For example, Jesus says that anything you ask for in prayer will be granted to you. Well, faith healing and prayer in general are abject failures. Therefore, any religion that accepts this interpretation literally instead of metaphorically is false, or Jesus is a liar. The Norse mythology asserts that giants walked the earth. Humanoid giants, mind you. not dinosaurs, zero fossils of such things is strong evidence to reject Odin on. We can go on if you like. Victor Stranger makes a powerful argument against any theistic god's existence in his various books, but you can look those up on your own. Beyond that, you have deistic and pantheistic gods, which, by definition, you cannot prove or disprove by any rational means. As such, the only thing I say about such gods is that I have no reason to believe they exist, and you fail to provide me with any reason to believe. I don't disbelieve as such, I merely treat them as non-existent because that's how relevant they've proven to be in my life. Try again?
What is the origin of life?
You're gonna hate me for this one, buddy. I don't know. And you are a prideful, hubristic, sinful fellow for asserting that you do know. I'm hilariously more right with your God for my position on this one than you are. At least I can embrace my ignorance. Now, all that aside, there are some interesting hypotheses out there, and they're worth looking into. Just start at the wiki page for abiogenesis, and then walk through the external links. It's not a bad starting point, just don't stop there. Why do so many apologists think that a question where the honest answer is, I don't know, is such a big win for them? It seems crazy in any religion that preaches humility, if I'm honest.
If humans are animals, then where does our sense of justice, where does our sense of morality, where does our sense of what's right and what's wrong come from?
Us. Really. It's that fucking simple, friend. Hell, other animals have a sense of right or wrong, albeit one that is more rudimentary than ours. We are a complex social species. As a result, we have to have some system to organize how we operate in groups. We just happen to also be so fucking complexly wired up in the brain pan that we're aware of the fact that we think. So instead of just operating on some programmed system of behaviors, we contemplate them and eventually develop more complex systems of thinking and behaving. If you're honestly interested in this shit, I'd recommend The Red Queen by Matt Ridley and Darwin's Dangerous Idea by Daniel Dennett. You might be surprised at how much thought has gone into this, but that's because so little has gone into your own position. Come on. So far, you haven't asked a question that has been any harder to answer than verifying the names of books and their authors.
If you were given irrefutable evidence that the God of the Bible is real, would you become a Christian?
First, let's be clear. If you gave me that evidence, I would accept that the God of the Bible was in fact real. However, I would not become a Christian. I would accept the far more moral task of kicking his ass out of heaven. As described in the Bible, God is a petty tyrant who tortures innocent people for all eternity for the mere crime of failing to believe in him in spite of the complete lack of evidence for him. And his one path to redemption? Not admitting how he fucked up by putting a tasty tree in easy reach of a pair of humans who didn't know any better. No, he'd rather fuck Joseph's wife without his or her permission, insert himself into the child, then offer himself as a blood sacrifice to himself just to cleanse me of a crime I never committed, for which he chose to judge me. I've never heard of a more amoral, barbaric son of a bitch than your God. For my Christian followers, understand that I'm taking the Bible at face value here. I get that there are more esoteric interpretations that attempt to explain away the plain reading of the text. I'm not really interested in those. But I respect you for at least rejecting the blatant murder for salvation bargain that the actual Gospels present. I'll let you ponder how fucked up your religion is later. For now, let's hope his next question is one we can all laugh at.
Tell me something. If evolution is real, and if evolution is really happening, how come there are no transitional forms that we can observe?
Because you don't know what evolution is or what transitional forms are. Look at yourself, look at your parents. Are you a perfect copy? Do you have kids? Look at yourself, look at your kids. Are they perfect copies? Do you get the point yet? Do I have to fucking spell it out for you? Every living thing is a transitional form. You are not your parents, your children are not you, and over the billions of years, those little differences will add the fuck up. This isn't hard, and your questions are stupid. 2 more tries before you fail completely.
Do you live according to what you believe, or do you live your life according to what you lack in belief?
The former, no shit Sherlock, which is why I don't refer to my atheism unless and until we get to discussing God claims and I need a convenient way to say, I don't believe the shit you're selling. See, I live my life based around what Thunderfoot once described as pluralism. The idea that the world exists, we can observe it, and by doing so while applying reason and logic, we can understand it. That's it. My morality comes from an understanding that I want to live and let live, what Matt Dillahunty might call well-being. And I understand that insofar as how I define morality, it's subjective. But within my definition of morality, I can make objective claims about what is right or wrong. Why is this so fucking hard for you to understand?
If God doesn't exist and the Christian dies, the Christian loses nothing. But if God does exist and you die as an atheist, do you not lose more? Will you not lose your soul?
You do know I can turn this around, right? If you die and the Muslim God exists. If you die and the Hindu gods exist. If you die and Satan is the ultimate power having overthrown your God. If you die and the Pentecostal God exists and refuses non-Pentecostal souls. Rinse and repeat, 1,000,001 times. Pascal's wager is fallacious in part because it assumes a dichotomy of two. Either your God exists or no God exists. But the real wager is that there are so very many possible gods which might exist, with varying probabilities of them existing. And the weakest wager is an anti-science interpretation of any of the three Abrahamic religions. Now, for my money, the evidence suggests that if a God and an afterlife exists, God would care more about honesty than faith. Why would he accept a soul that was baptized out of a fear of hell over an atheist who genuinely said, sorry, you just didn't make the case for your existence? That being said, I don't see any reason to believe we have souls, that there is an afterlife, or that any God stands waiting to judge us based on his mysterious rules. And I live my life accordingly. Since I have nothing else, this means that I try to love every minute that I'm alive. I'll try to love every person I meet, and I try to maybe just leave the world a little bit better than I got here. Because there's nothing else waiting for me. No great reward to eclipse everything I've ever done with my life. No great punishment to make it all futile. I have every reason to leave this earth knowing I did every damn thing I could to enjoy it and make it a better place for everyone after me. Because, as an atheist, there are no second chances. You either get it right now, or you're done. And if your God has the nerve to hold that against me just because I didn't accept the scribblings of some Iron and Bronze Age shepherds, well, I'll spit in his eye and start working to make the next world a better place for everyone.
Hebrews chapter 11 verse 3 says, by faith we understand that the universe was created by the word of God, so that what is seen was not made out of things that are visible. Now, just because we can't visibly see something, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. We cannot see God, but it doesn't mean that God doesn't exist.
So what? This is just you saying, just because we have no reason to believe, we shouldn't not believe. That's fucking stupid. No offense to people who believe for their personal reasons, but it's fucking stupid to believe without cause. We don't know that Hitler wasn't a fairy princess, and we have no reason to believe he was, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't believe Hitler was a fairy princess, right? See, what happens the minute you substitute anything other than your preferred God claim? You recoil in a shocked, what the fuck, are you crazy? And you should. It's fucking stupid.
For example, we cannot see the wind, but we do feel the wind. We also feel the effects of the wind, and we also experience the movement of the wind.
You know you turn this argument on its head every time someone explains the evidence for evolution, right? We can't see evolution happen on the macro level, but all the side effects and ripples that are logically consistent with it happening appear in the evidence available to us. Therefore, based on both the evidence we have on the micro level and the inferences from the facts on the macro level, we know that evolution happens. But then your buddy Ken Ham will ask, were you there? Which is the equivalent of saying, did you see the wind? So, if the methodologies by which we demonstrate evolutionary theory were good enough for proving that wind exists, that electrons exist, quite frankly, that the whole modern understanding of physics is rational and consistent, then you should accept evolutionary theory. And once you accept evolutionary theory and physics, all the wonder we see around us in the universe is explained without needing to appeal to a god. That is, we see no effects of a god unless we're ignorant of how the natural systems in question work. So no, you're still full of shit, mate.
And so the truth is, creation itself testifies of an all-powerful and imaginative creator. And so to the atheist, I would encourage you to be open-minded to the existence of God and to the possibilities of having a relationship with your creator.
Mate, I'm open to the idea. 5 seconds after you give me one good fucking reason to be. So far, you've failed to offer any questions that can't be answered, or any apologetic argument that isn't silly. If there's a God, he knows exactly what you need to do to prove himself to me. If you have a connection and personal relationship with God, he can tell you what to do from there. And if he truly loves everyone and wants to save their souls, he will tell you the exact, precise answer to the following. I'm thinking of a number. If God exists and you want to save my soul, you'll pray for that number, then include it in your next video. Send me a link so I know whether or not your God exists. If I don't hear you say, Inane Dragon, your number was X and God told me so, in your next video, where X is the number I'm thinking of as I write this and have just paused writing it so as I can write it down, then I'll have enough reason to start considering other aspects of God's nature beyond mere existence. I'm Inane Dragon, and this sort of horse shit makes me want to drink. If you've enjoyed my inanity, consider subscribing for more of the same. True believers would toss me $1 or $2 on Patreon. It helps lighten your wallet, but it buys me more beer.